Well, welcome back to part 4 of my discussion with Ron Box and Steve Rounds. Some of the best parts of the conversation were when we were just talking about some car stories, things that happened while you were building cars and stories that came up. So this video is just a couple of stories told by Ron in his own words.
You know what? I worked for a guy at a gas station when I was a kid. This guy come in with an old Studebaker, and he wants this done, that done. He's got a list. I says, "You're not going to fix this piece of shit, are you?" You know. And the guy gave me a funny look. And now the guy that I worked for, a guy named Len Hash. I'll never forget him as long as I live. He grabbed a hold of me, he took me to the compressor room, and you can't hear in there. This compressor's running, and I heard every word. You do not tell a guy that he's got his piece of shit. He says, "You don't do that." He said, "I'll tell you a little story, what you should do. Next time a guy comes up with a piece of shit, how do you like your car? Because my dad had one, just loved it. You'll hear a story, and it's true. Here's the story. And the only time you hear him say a piece of shit, he says, I finally got rid of that piece of shit." Mm-hmm. You know, and this is the only time you'll hear him say he's a piece of shit. So.
You know what? My favorite question that I ask everybody when I go to the car shows is, tell me about your car. And that's all I say. I don't give them any indicator of what I want to hear about the car, because I get the best stories when they tell me about the car.
They tell you from their heart.
Yes. I'll get, this was my grandpa's car. This was my dad's car. This was a car that my brother and I built together. This is,
exactly. Exactly.
And that's the stories I want to hear. And that's
what everybody wants to hear.
Yeah. I want to hear what they did and how they got there, how this thing came to be. Like a lot of these cars, like the ones you've said here, these beautiful cars we're looking at, a lot of times these cars have been restored and re-restored, sometimes 3 and 4 times. Over and over again.
Cadillac, it was a bundle. The bundle, you've never seen some bundle in your life. I took it and I took it all apart in the yard, and I vacuumed it outside. I'm not fixing this. I did stand outside the shop. I had no glass, no nothing, no one here. I left it outside in the rain and all that stuff. I wasn't going to do it. And finally, what the hell? I paid $2,500 for the body and that thing. And this guy had 3 of them. I took the best one. I had the worst one. I might have got the worst one. I don't know. But anyway, then I had to search for parts as it is, and I finally found them. But it wasn't worth doing. Once you start it, you have to finish it. No. I'll tell you a bit of a story. I had a brand new '51 Mercury convertible, which I bought, and I was 16. I saved my money up. I went to this town, and I wanted a 37 Ford 85. There was a lot of 60s with a small V8, the 60 called 64. Yeah. No, the 85 horse. I wanted a 37 Ford. I went to a different car lots in this little town. I rode my bicycle, and that's about 16 miles from my house. And I drove there, and I didn't find one. And I going by the showroom, there was a '51 Mercury convertible in the showroom. Oh. I said, dark green, beautiful, sitting there with the top down in the showroom. I walked in, and the salesman said, "Don't touch that. That's a lot of money. That's a car." And on the windshield, it said $2,420. Wow. The car was brand new. It was a Mercury convertible with power windows, which I didn't realize at the time. All convertibles come with power windows in 1951 on the Mercurys, which I thought at the time it was an option. Anyway, it had an automatic in it, which was an option. Had an automatic and power windows. And I'm looking at the thing, and 2 salesmen there said, and I'm looking inside the car. I said, "How do you buy one of this? You know how much this thing is? It's the most expensive car we got here." Well, so I'm interested, and I'd like to buy this. And I had $2,500 in the bank. I had enough to cover my bum to get this. I said, "Well, I'd like to have this." Anyway, there was a wicket, like a wrought iron in the corner, like the girl sat there on a typewriter with the secretary. So I went over to her and I said, "How do you buy one of these? You know how expensive?" "Yeah, that's the 3rd time I've heard this. I'd like to buy this." So I says, so I had the money in my pocket. I'm like that. She says, "Oh, where'd you get all that?" So anyway, the boss comes out and he says, "What's going on here?" I said, "Well, I'd like to buy that car." I says, and he says, "You see the money this guy's got, And so I got the money. And I says, "Now, where'd you get all that?" And I says, "Well, actually, my banker's out there, because when I went to the bank to get the money, he wouldn't give it to me. He said he'd bring me here in his Dodge." He had a '50 Dodge. And the banker says, now why would you buy something that kind of money? You can buy a new Dodge like this for $700. I don't want a new Dodge, to start with. And anyway, and the guy says, the guy salesman didn't want it. He went over to he says, you get this car outside and you go get you're going out to the license bureau. Inside of 2 hours, I'm on the street with this brand new Mercury convertible. And, and when I took it home, and the first thing we did back then, we took our hoods off. I took the hood off the car and stood it behind the house. Then I went cruising around. I lived in Port Stanley, and it was, like I say, it was a summer resort. I'm cruising around with my Mercury convertible. Anyway, 4 months later, I parked in front of my mother. She had a 35 Pontiac coupe. And my mother could drive a dump truck. Anyway, and I said, well, move your cars. I want to go to town. She says, well, I said, take mine. It's easy. It's just the top was down. You can drive that. It's just easy. Just put it in reverse, R. Anyway, well, she got going out the laneway. She's backing up. She's got the door. That was her habit. Like in the old days, you couldn't see a coupe.
Right.
She had the door open, and she went to stop the thing. She hit the gas pedal, and the door caught the post on the end of the laneway. It drove the door to the motor.
Oh, no.
And my mother was laying on the ground with a great big, all of us the instant, she had a great big blood blister on her arm, and I'm freaking out. And the neighbors come out, and they're going on there. Now the car was wide open, buried itself in the dirt, like the back wheel spinning.
Right.
And then the gas pedal comes, she jammed it all in, and it was going screaming wide open. And anyway, they took her to the hospital. She wasn't really seriously hurt, but she had a big blister. She busted a vessel or something in her skin. But anyway, the car sat there, and I ended up, all I could get for was $400. And it wasn't, I couldn't fix it. I had no way of doing it. And I wasn't a body man at the time. And I didn't know how to fix it, so I sold it for $400. And the guy made a kind of a truck out of it, and he delivered. He had no trunk lid on it, and the driver's door, and he got it all done. I went, look, I'm so glad, because it was badly done. He couldn't use that door. You had to get in the passenger side. So it was that bad a shape. But anyway, I went and bought a 47 Mercury convertible, $300. At that time, this was 1952, and the car wasn't that old, but the roof was not good on it. And it was all rotten, like it was just bad shape. And it wasn't that old of a car, but anyway, I went to an auto wreckers, and they had 2 Ford convertibles there in the yard, and one had a real good, nice roof on it. And I said to the guy, I said, I'd like to buy that cloth off that. He says, no, that won't work for you, because they're put on, then trimmed. He said, I'll tell you what you do. He says, how's your bows? And I said, nothing wrong. I said, you take your bows off, bring it up, we'll give you the whole thing. And that way you can put it on the car, then you attach it to the back corner. And I already talked to the upholstery shop. He said, yeah, we can go. We go in, and I go home, and my dad gave me a hand. We said, my mother calls me in for dinner. It calls in for dinner, and I looked out there, and the roof was sitting on top of the steering wheel. And I'm looking, look at that. Now it's way down. It looked like a chopped car sitting there. I already had the hop-up magazines they had back then. I was into the custom car look, but I did the wheels and stuff. And anyway, and I said, I'm going to chop that. I said, you're not going to wreck that car. You're not going to wreck that car. I said, well, anyway, I went out there and I took the windshield up. It was no big deal. I took the hacksaw and I cut the frame off. And of course, then it was gas welding. I tacked it, looked at it, perfect. Well, I got it all done. I said and done. I can stretch it out a little bit longer. But anyway, I get it all done. Now, get the windows to work. The back windows wouldn't go up unless I cracked the roof loose, and then roll the windows up. It's fine. It'd go down fine with the roof up. But when the roof was attached, I had to undo it and wind the windows up and then get it up again. Years and years later, we went to a car show with one of these here cars. There was a 47 Ford convertible sitting there chopped. And I said, talking to the guy behind it, and I said, I said, did you do this? He said, yes, I did. I said, I'm not going to do another one. I said, well, I know I did one. You did? And I said, yeah, I did one, but it was a Mercury. It was the same thing. And I said, I had a problem with mine in the back window. He goes, guess what? Guess what? He says. He said, mine won't go up either. I said, crack the roof loose. So there must be something there in the geometries. It wasn't going down. And then, of course, the roof was sitting on top of the steering wheel. And I looked out there, and the roof was sitting on top of the steering wheel. And I looked out there, 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 and I lo
It works fine.
They both did the same thing.
Isn't that funny, eh?
Oh yeah, it just blew my socks off. You know, the guy, I got the same problem. You know? Isn't that something? So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm carrying on here.
Oh, I'll betcha.
Yeah.
You must find going to the gas station is it's not an easy incursion. You're there for a while.
We went to her and I went someplace in Ohio. We pulled off and get gas, and there was a little restaurant across the road. And I said, "What's the restaurant like?" You guys, it's excellent. You'll find it. We pulled in the parking lot, and there was, probably 5 little kids there. They were black. And anyway, and then when he started to scream, just like a girl, you know, he just, "Oh, I'm going to get Bubba." I said, "Bubba will buy this." And I said, "No, it's not for sale." "Oh, I go get Bubba. Bubba will buy this," you know. So I don't know what. Anyway, they come back, but 3 of them come back, but the other 2, I never seen Bubba. Anyway, but we were going, "Oh, he'll buy this." So I don't know.
I hope you enjoyed hearing these stories told by Ron Box about some of his experiences with the cars building and some of the neat stories that came along the way. Next week, we'll be talking with Steve Rounds about his collection and about what it's like to have this many cars.